Good afternoon, everyone. AMA session with Dipika was a huge hit, and we have about 25 plus questions that has come offline. So we're doing a special rapid fire with Dipika to get all our audience's questions answered now. So Dipika, are you ready? Fire away. Is it good to start over product career in a startup or an MNC?
I answered this question, but really quick, I would follow where you have an inspiring team, a meaty problem to solve, and people who will give you chances and not box you in doing product management in a very narrow way. So it's not about startup or MNC, it's about the people and the problem you get to work on.
Is it necessary to learn UI UX as a skill to be a successful product manager?
It's not UI UX as a skill, but definitely understanding the customer's pain points and the journey that they go through. For example, when we were building electric vehicles, everything from researching should I buy this till I get the delivery that there is a scratch on the scooter and everything in between, right? So it's not about the UI UX, it's about the journey of the customer, the pain points they feel, and how to use UI UX to solve them. There are great books in UX for non-UX professionals. Connect with me on LinkedIn, happy to share a few, or I'll have a post out on that.
Thank you. What has been your experience with marketing, product marketing?
Product marketing is really important. Very often we think that if we build something, people will just come, but it's really important to know who's your target base, who's your segment. Are they already on your app or your site or whatever? How are you going to reach to them? How are you going to appeal? Is there going to be a launch campaign that makes them want to take a bet on a new product? So very, very critical, and oftentimes when people get the product right but not the marketing aspect of it, unfortunately the product doesn't succeed as well as it should.
How to overcome obstacles while selling a customer or a business, a product or a business to a customer?
The obstacles could be that you don't understand what is it that they are looking for, what are their pain points. We'll give you a quick example. When Airtel wanted to subsidize mobile phones on Flipkart, one of the things, their original plan was, let's make it a 30-month plan. When we talked to customers, we realized that is too long. They didn't want to be, the lock-in period to be more than a year or 15 months, right? So the obstacle is not understanding what your customer is willing to do.
Possible obstacles for a customer to buy a product or a new product. What is your perspective on that?
It's really not about the obstacle for the customer to buy the product. It's have you done the sharp thinking on why will your product appeal to the customer? Because it's not their job to come and sample products. It's our job to get the problem correct and give them a very valuable and a very compelling proposition. We are everybody is competing for the customer's attention. So it's not removing the obstacles. It's making them want to come to you.
We have a question that said, I find very less PMs in India, especially women. How do you see this role evolving in India? And major competencies for leadership role, I think you've answered that. So let's just focus on women PMs and the lack thereof of PMs in India. How do you see that?
I think it's about PMs in general. I think it's a new discipline in India, and I think it's one that has a lot of promise in the future, because people are going to realize that you need somebody who's a synthesizer of very many different disciplines. If you look at how education in India has evolved, it has been a lot about excellence, prep exams, acing those exams, which creates an amazing tech bench in India. Product management isn't, like I've said in the talk today, as formulaic, and I think we are going to need out-of-the-box thinkers, problem solvers, design thinkers, right-brain thinkers who can work with left-brain people as well. As the ecosystem explodes in India and people realize that the inexpensive venture capital is drying up, we'll have to build product managers who can launch successful products. So I expect that product management in India is really going to explode.
Someone says, I've really associated with your point, doing product management without knowing it. How to build upon that for internal products, where the role is not as defined. This is someone from Swiss.
So it's a great question, right? And the way you create a portfolio of product management when you realize you have not done product management as a formal role is again, what is the problem that you were solving, or what is the opportunity you created for the organization? Did you make loyal customers, or did you make your customers come back more? Did you make their satisfaction scores higher, or their NPS, or their CSAT, or however you measure it? Did you increase repeat customers? So you clearly have had to solve something, and then that's the why and the what problem you solve. Then how did you go about solving it? So that's something you need to be able to talk about. That I saw this problem or I saw this opportunity. Here's what I did to make it okay, and I did it in a way that's sustainable. That's not a one-time shot. That created a sustainable advantage for my product, and here's the result. So here's the output of that. Metrics really help. Either it is cost savings or revenue that you've added, etc.
I just joined an MNC and I transitioned from startup to MNC, where I have a technical product, technical architect. Can you edit? You can edit the video, right? I think
where I have a technical architect product. How do I make?
No, I'm not sure.
I don't understand.
How easy or difficult is it to change industry or field of work in product? I want to go from product management to product design, and how to proceed in it without experience.
Definitely, when you move to a role like product design, if I understand correctly, the way I read your question is you want to actually build the interfaces that customers use. That is a skill that you will have to build. Obviously, your experience as a product manager is going to help you make sure that you are solving the correct problem, that you are designing for the right experience. But the nuts and bolts of what technologies you use, what is the form factor that you're designing for? Is it a tablet? Is it is a laptop? Is it a native app? What kind of phone? All of these things, are you using technologies like React or some of the newer frameworks like polyester, etc. Those are hard skills that you're going to have to pick up. And again, there are great courses out there to do this.
Okay, we have someone who is going to start her APM journey with Sansure. Although she's extremely excited, there's a voice in her head thinking whether she'll actually like it or not. So the question is how to balance the urge to learn most that she can, at the same time calm down and figure out whether she'll like it or not.
Clearly that's a choice you've made because something attracted you to that. So I would urge you to kind of calm down that voice, and sometimes I think the anxiety comes because you're thinking about if this doesn't work out the way it will, the way I expected it to, what happens next, right? So you're still very young in your career, you're starting out as an APM. Give it all that you have as long as you're here. Whether this turns out the way you want it to or not, and I hope it does for you, you will learn something out of it. It will not go waste. So look at it as one big adventure, give it your all, and tell yourself that no matter what happens, I can pick myself back up and move on. All the best.
What would you suggest to improve from a communication skill standpoint to articulate things better and your thoughts better?
Yeah. See, there's two kinds of communication. One is your spoken communication, one is your written communication. And they're actually quite different. When it's spoken communication, it's about having the confidence to express your perspective in front of others, that you have something to say that is valuable to people. And for that, there's Toastmasters is a great way to do it. There are debate clubs. I don't know, if you have access to these, I would encourage you to try them. The other is written communication, which is very important also in the product management discipline. I think people often underestimate that when a document or a deck or something is not well written, it can really, reduce your chances of success, because people get into a meeting for 40-45 minutes, 30 minutes, and if they don't get the point you're trying to make, they may be pleasant but nothing moves forward, right? So the problem statement, how you want your data to show up in your written communication, are you able to communicate concisely and emphatically, focus on the right points? I think these are really important skills. Again, I would urge you to look for courses online, but don't underestimate communication skills for product management.
In your opinion, what role has design thinking in the product mindset? How can we integrate the two of them?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think design thinking is extremely integral. Having said that, there are a lot of bad design thinking courses and good design thinking courses out there. I think like Agile, people are, trying to get on the design thinking bandwagon. And I'm not saying this to scare anyone off. Just make sure you do your due diligence if you're taking an expensive course. There are great design thinking books out there. Anyway, coming back to your question, it's really important because it takes you through the problem articulation to making sure that you understand the customer journey. You have sort of the empathy map, if you will, of what does a customer go through when they are in, considering your product, buying your product, researching your product, using your product, right? You want to be able to be in the shoes of that customer, and you have different personas as well, right? And that's what design thinking offers you a clear framework for. So highly encourage you to, delve into this discipline if you don't have experience with it.
Thanks for the detailed answer. We have many questions on design thinking. Another general question is, where do we get internship opportunities for product managers apart from the MBA grads?
Very frankly, we also go to the MBA schools.
Yes.
Having said that, tap into your network if you want to break into an MBA program. There might be, it's probably difficult to get into a batch that recruits a certain kind of candidate because, they have each other as a cohort. But having said that, there might be one-off opportunities you could tap into your network. I'm not aware of a sort of other, way to break into internships other than your network or through these cohorts.
Just to follow up on that, we had an offline question. Why do enterprises seek MBAs as opposed to a seasoned product professional who may have been doing very well in their current company?
I think there's two reasons. Actually, it's not just MBA; it's also great engineering schools that people.
Tier 1 colleges.
And that's because actually product management is such a multidisciplinary. It's such a multidisciplinary role, and you want strong generalists who can take a problem and sort of run with it, right? The MBA, and I'm an MBA as well, it really equipped me to start my product management journey because it taught me finance, it taught me strategy, it taught me operations, it taught me so many things that are involved in running the product. We focus a lot on tech, which is the building, the nuts and bolts and the coding of it, but there is so much else that I've spoken about, and you either get that from being on the job or you get that from going to a really good school that helps you. And by the way, I am not from an Ivy League school myself, right? Though I went to Amazon. So I want to encourage people who may not have had that start in life like an IIT or a top tier IIM or something, that also believe in yourself. If you have the mettle, I promise you the opportunity shows up.
Any tips for end of life products? Enterprise, any product end of life?
Yeah, I think the tips for end of life is to communicate with customers that might be using that end of life product, that it is sort of nearing the end of life and will not be supported any longer. If you have alternatives, you want to help them make that transition smoothly, and you want to make sure the whole transition is very clean, seamless, and then you celebrate the success of what has been.
You spoke about the leadership, right? Leadership aspects of getting into senior roles. There's a question on how did you personally upskill yourself to get into that senior leadership position from your personal perspective?
Yeah. So the upskilling wasn't for seniority. You don't sort of take courses to become a VP or something like that. The upskilling happened Because I took the bigger and bigger chances, but along the way, like I've shared in the NASSCOM event, I did upskill myself. So, not having been an engineer was something that I would think a lot about. And so, though I learned on the job from some terrific architects that I've worked with, in large organizations, I put myself through system designs learning. I bought books, and I think that is one area that I feel deeply fulfilled personally. That I would tell myself, it was this voice in my head that, hey, you're not an engineer, you can only get this far. I'm glad I sort of took it head on. You all live at such a wonderful time in the world right now, where learning opportunities are at the tips of your fingers on your phone. There really is no excuse not to continue identifying the area that makes you feel like you're being held back, and then just go for it and teach yourself.
Yes, this is one common question that many of the mid-senior professionals who want to move into product management in the later stage of their career have. How do you cater to that delta of experience? Because you have senior engineers who want to now move into product management. Do you have any specific tips for that?
Yeah, I think first of all, if you worked in a product company in different roles, you have a definite advantage, right? It's not like you have done something that is completely different and are looking to break into product management, in which case, that's a completely different conversation. But like I've said, product management is a synthesis of many disciplines. So say if you've been a UX designer or a software engineer or from finance, I have many people sometimes from operations who want to come into product. You already understand one facet of the product journey really well. You understand the problem that we are trying to solve for the customer, the opportunity, where the product has succeeded, where it's failed. So you have a leg up there. Having said that, it's again very important to upskill yourself in areas that you might be completely missing on, whether it's the understanding the financial aspects of the product. I think understanding metrics is huge. And I feel that this is something in India that sometimes you're a little bit nascent on, instrumenting your product correctly, understanding product analytics. You should, and there is enough body of work out there, enough courses, enough books out there that you can learn along the way. And it's a compelling story. You say that I have experience in this domain for whatever 5, 6, 8 years. Here's what I've done to solve problems. Here's what I understand about it, and here's what I can bring to the table. Since this is a very common question, the one thing I want to ask people is be very clear about why you want to move to product management, right? Sometimes the coolness factor or the perceived coolness of it is what people think that, these guys get to make all the shots, or they call themselves the CEO of the product or whatever, and then that's what makes you want to do product management. And I don't think that's a great enough reason. Make sure that you are wanting to be a product manager for the right reasons.
What would persuade or convince customers to adopt preventive healthcare practices in India in a very light manner and not consider it as a taboo? This is coming from someone who is building a B2C platform for this.
I think preventive healthcare, I actually don't fully understand why that would be a taboo, because people would rather be healthy than spend a lot of money recovering from an illness. So I'd love to understand your question a bit deeper so I can do justice to it.
What do you do when you realize that it's not an imposter syndrome, but it's a genuine skill issue? How do you save yourself from spiraling downward?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, right? There are things that you just don't know how to do, and then there are situations that you've been in before, but you're afraid to do a larger version of that. And that's how I separate between a genuine skill gap and an imposter syndrome, right? So for instance, when I say that I didn't come from the engineering track, that was a genuine skill gap that I had to fill, and I did along the way. But saying no to some really amazing opportunities that management thought I was right for, but I was afraid of, happened because of the imposter syndrome, because I didn't see myself through those eyes. So it's really about the hard skill versus being afraid to step up to a higher stage, if you will, because you're afraid of whether you have it in you.
in this ever-changing world, everybody wants to grow faster in a shorter period of time. What are the self-analyzing, reflective points that one should focus on?
There's something that I learned from Amazon surprisingly is while they focus on the competition and what's happening, really their benchmark is themselves. I love that you focus on your journey, because I think every individual's journey is so very unique, and we all have to grow in different ways, and we bring different strengths to the table as well. I would urge you to refrain or resist from looking over your shoulder and comparing yourself to someone else, and focus on your journey. It really will take you longer when you focus on where do you want to be, what's getting in your way, is this fulfilling you as a person or not. So you don't waste many years of your life trying to do something because others are doing it and then realize you didn't want to do it after all.
Basically becoming the best version of themselves.
Absolutely.
I think women are hesitant to ask for hikes or progression in general. How do we solve for that? Can companies go away from crying baby gets milk syndrome?
So typically, whether it's women or men, usually folks that get the progression are people who can almost already do that job. And I think it's really important to be able to demonstrate that you're functioning at that level. It's not out of kindness or to dole out chances to everybody equally that people get promotions, right? So I think what you should focus on is asking for the opportunities that allow you to demonstrate that you can already perform at that level that you're aspiring to be in, and then asking for that promotion becomes easier. Because if you have the courage to ask for those opportunities, you will have the courage to ask for the hike as well or the promotion as well. That's usually my experience.
Great advice, thank you. How do you continuously keep yourself inspired? What are the ways or sources to get inspired constantly?
Actually, it's what you just said. I really want to be the best version of myself. I have always been driven by wanting to understand myself deeply, because I always believe that there is the hard skills, there's what you learn in books, there's the job that you perform, and that there's you as a person and how you show up in the world, how you see yourself relative to others. Do you make decisions for the right reasons? Are you ethical? Are you able to be right when there's a lot around you that's going wrong? These have been personally important to me, so that's where I draw my inspiration from.
I think we can just take a couple more questions. What are ways that we can network and reach out to the community members to connect to and keep in touch?
Over lunch with a colleague of mine, I think she said something that I really like. One is when people approach her for mentoring, she asks, what do you want to get out of the mentoring relationship, and how will you know that you have got it? So what does that success look like to you? And I really like those questions, because when you approach somebody for mentoring time, have that clarity around what you want out of it. That makes it easy for people to want to invest in you. I think people do get approached by folks who are looking for some easy connections and things like that. Make sure that you don't fall in that camp, so that people want to reach out and build those bridges. I really think NASSCOM NWPC is a fantastic networking avenue. I myself am going to get more involved, and because I see the amazing people that come who are so generous and amazing and have their own strengths to contribute. So I think it's a great place to start.
Thank you. Just one last question. As an aspiring women software professional and a mother of 2 children, there's always a dilemma what to prioritize, and there's a pressure from family to cut down and everything. So how do we prioritize? And I think it's just not about women, mother, and all that titles aside. In general, women are handling different roles in different areas.
So I think there are 2 questions in this really important question. One is the pressure that you feel from other people to do a certain thing for family approval or whatever other reasons, right? So one is having the courage to understand what is it that you want for yourself. I know that this is easier said than done. So one is be own that your professional success is important to you, even if it might not be the popular choice, as long as you're able to and I know women are amazingly resourceful, and they will ask for help and make sure that their other responsibilities are discharged with a lot of love and care as well. But own what you want. And the second point I would make is don't feel guilty about it. Then there will always be somebody else telling you that you didn't do the right thing, or here's what happened to somebody else who made the choice that you did. Learn how to listen politely and then move on with the choice that you've made for yourself. I think women especially allow that guilt to eat away at them. So
if you don't have the support system, today there are ways and means to create that support system for you to accomplish your goal as well. So just wanted to add that.
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Dipika. Thank you, for doing a special rapid fire AMU for us. It's been a great pleasure having you at NWPC. Looking forward to collaborating more with you on, on many such forums and our events.
Thank you, Lakshmi. It's been wonderful, and I look forward to the continued collaboration as well.